we have Senior Research Associate from Khazanah Research Institute, Hawati Abdul Hamid. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Universiti Malaya Professor of Economics, Professor Dr. Rajah Rasiah. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Now, we're going to go straight into it. 18% discount on all Plus Highway toll charges. What's your take on it, Professor?
It's blanket or during non-peak times?
I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure about the...
I thought the information that, given out by YB Guaneng was about non-peak times, 18%. To some extent, it's good. I think it's good because then you, it's not too high as a discount, so that it doesn't really affect very much consumer behavior in relation to those who use the highways. But at the same time, it also encourages people who can then relieve these highways during peak times to times when they can actually take the highway. So in a way, it can ease jams. So I think that's a good initiative.
Do you think that this also hints that the government will proceed with its plan to take over Plus Highway?
Yeah, very much in the discussion. I think one of the things that's exciting about the budget is, despite the fact that you hear lots of goodies, but at the same time, the fiscal deficit is also going down, suggesting that they will be more efficient in the allocation of the resources. So that's a good thing. Now, whether they'll go ahead, I think their science suggests, I think they are even talking about which are the highways they're going to take over gradually and how the negotiations are going. So I believe in the end, if they're going to be here much longer, I believe they will fulfill that.
Are you in favor of the government taking over the Plus Highways, or are you not in favor of that?
I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of that. Also voted in by the people because that was one of the promises they made.
Okay.
And a highway is a public utility.
Is it good for our economy if the government takes over the highways?
I mean, if one has the impression that governments won't do business as the private sector, then that will be a problem. I don't take that. If you have proper appraisal mechanisms to ensure that costs are always kept low, it doesn't mean, even in Korea, for example, banks were state-owned from 65 to 85,
right,
and they did well. So I think it's the appraisal mechanism, the governance system that you put in place to ensure that performance is there.
All right. Hawati, 50 ringgit increment for cost of living allowance, COLA, for civil servants. Is this significant?
Well, you have to look from, if household perspective, 50 people can be big for low income household, but
50 ringgit for low.
Yeah, I mean, if you are earning like 2,000 and below or 3,000 and below, 50 ringgit can be something that can cushion a bit of your spending. But then, if you have this bigger household, probably that can be negligible.
You personally think, do you think this increment should be increased further, or are you okay with the 50 ringgit increment? Do you think it's justified, 50 ringgit increment?
I am of a view that in order to help, this is not the only way to help household to weather or to cushion their cost of living. For example, like, I mean, if you are trying to continue to give cash aid, to what extent? To what would be the limit of you of giving this? Given that people have different preference, different needs, or probably wants. So another way to actually address household cost of living or their standard of living, probably trying to promote from market perspective, for example, trying to create a better quality job, higher value added job, so that I believe that with betterment in the labor market environment, this would indirectly help a lot of issues that we are facing today, like high cost of living and things like that.
Right. Professor, I'm going to go back to you. Being a professor of economics, the government said that they have no plan to reintroduce the goods and services tax. Are you in favor of this? Do you think this is good for the country?
Actually, on my own as an economist, and the way Jim Merlis first introduced it, the Nobel laureate who won the prize for the goods and services tax, I think it would have been a good idea simply because you will have everyone, including
Good
foreigners,
idea
paying.
to re-implement the goods and
Yeah,
services
but
tax.
I understand the political situation that actually drove the decision not to have it, and under such circumstances, it's impossible to expect a government that has made that sort of a pledge to come back.
Okay.
Now, returning to this, I think the position that I see, again, this is an important observation that I saw. I am not privileged to looking at the statistics, except to hear the finance minister explaining it. He's actually looking, you're actually looking at a reduced budget deficit, even though the fiscal side of it is expanding. It's, in other words, he didn't talk so much about monetary incentives and so on. Of course, for the lower income or even the SMEs, you have, but that again goes to fiscal policy, which is reducing taxes, corporate taxes for SMEs from 18 to 17%. But having said all those things, I think you are expanding the fiscal side of it, which requires government expenditure, and at the same time, you are actually not taxing that much more. And then in that sense, not introducing GST, which actually casts the net much wider.
Great. Now, thank you, Dr.